head coach Matt Rule. How'd Baylor finish up last night?
Yeah, they got thumped by Georgia.
So,
and here's the thing on Rule, which is I've heard a lot going around as far as I believe it's both New York and Carolina are the prime targets to hire that want to take a shot at him as far as interviews. Rule is hell-bent on hiring his own staff, and apparently he was available last year as one of the coaching candidates in the other New York team, the Jets, and they weren't going to give him autonomy to hire his own staff, which is why he, went back to Baylor. So I think that's probably the key thing as far as him leaving Baylor. But honestly, with the coaching vacancies right now, I don't think he leaves. I think he stays at Baylor another year. Wait till next year.
Too. The Browns apparently wanted to talk to Rule, and Rule turned them down. He says he hasn't had anybody reaching out to him. And right now, NFL.com on their coaching tracker doesn't have the Panthers linked to Matt Rule, but I have heard reports that the Panthers want to talk to Rule as well. But I don't think this is the year we're going to see a former college coach unless it's Urban Meyer. I don't think I'm in agreement with you here, James. I don't think Matt Rule's going anywhere. I think for the Giants, quite like I said, I think maybe somebody from the Patriots ends up coaching the Giants, and I don't think it's the offensive coordinator. I think it's the head coach. I do. I really do. I am dead set on believing the reset button is getting pushed in New England this year.
Well, yeah, I hear you. I do, and while I believe McDaniel doesn't leave, even though he may be sought after by some of these teams, I still think McDaniel's is still being groomed to be the heir apparent if and when Belichick steps down. But here's a name. McCarthy has interviewed with a couple of these teams. Maybe he takes a New York job, or maybe he's offered the New York job.
I think he might get offered, but I think McCarthy's best fit is with Cleveland. I think that is the place for him because he's going to want – because much like Rule, he's going to want to bring in all of his own guys. And I think I'm forgetting the name. I think it's Elliot Wolf. Is the GM that he'd be bringing along with him. And I think that is something that the Browns would find rather sexy.
Well, yeah, because they do have a GM vacancy as well since they parted ways with Dorsey.
And it is the place where coaches go to die, and you know how I feel about McCarthy. So.
Oh, gosh.
The one thing, Jay, the one thing that struck me with Belichick this year was that all of a sudden he was doing these roundtables for the NFL 100 thing, and you're thinking, are you sort of setting yourself up for a big move? Is there something happening there in terms of, getting yourself out in the media and getting yourself to be the media darling again, which is important in New York? There was something odd about that. It's like the last coach I'd expected to see doing NFL roundtables was probably Belichick.
And he was awful at it too, by the way.
Those roundtables, it was like an offshoot of The Office.
It was so bad.
It was terrible,
I don't understand the hype around that. I mean, I do understand the hype around it, but after you had the finished product, to continue hyping it was what I didn't understand. It was not as good as we were led to believe it was going to be. It was terrible. There was
one with Brett Favre and Tom Brady, and it was like, yeah, and we took Peyton's play and we put it in our playbook, and we're all going, oh, that was fantastic. And you're thinking, oh, for God's sake, move on. This is a lot.
Seriously.
Yeah, terrible. Honestly. Oh, geez.
The next team on our list is the Miami Dolphins. They're going to be picking number 5. They ended up 29th in our power rankings at the end of the year. Interesting note out of here. We all knew Brian Flores was safe, that whatever was happening this season was all about tanking for Tua. What I find very interesting is that they fired Chad O'Shea and Dave DiGuglielmo after one season, which is very odd. I don't know. Googs.
These are offensive staff people, the OC, and I believe the quarterback's coach.
He was the offensive line. No, the offensive coordinator and the offensive line coach.
That's a punishment. That's a punishment for doing so well.
I don't know why they let those two guys go.
I do.
Why? What's up there, James?
Oh, it's easy. I mean, you can't see it. They're going to draft their quarterback, and they're going to draft people. They're going to select people that they're comfortable with grooming said drafted quarterback. Now, whether that's Tua or anybody else coming out, that's why those guys got fired.
I think they got fired because the owner said to them, "Look, we didn't want 5 wins. What the hell are you playing at? Get out."
Neil, I think they're safe drafting the quarterback they want at 5 because none of the 4 teams in front of them will be looking at quarterbacks with the exception. I mean, maybe the Bengals, though I don't see how they move on from Dalton so quickly. And possibly
the Bengals are taking Joe Burrow. That's written in stone. What are you talking about, James? And Detroit, I think, is looking for a quarterback.
Okay. I think if the draft was today, you would have Burrow going number 1. You'd have Chase Young going to Washington at number 2. And then what have you got then? Detroit and the Giants next. And Detroit, Detroit wouldn't take a quarterback so high. They might take one later on, but not so high. And the Giants will be happy with Jones. So unless somebody trades up, like the Raiders trade up, maybe.
I think somebody's going to trade up to get a quarterback in that top 5 for sure.
The Raiders cannot come out of this draft without a high quarterback from one of those early picks have gone.
The Raiders will come out of this draft without a high quarterback.
I don't think the Raiders are drafting a quarterback.
See, I could see the Raiders trading up, taking Tua, and letting them heal and play Carr for another year while he's under contract.
Well, we'll know what's going on with Tua on January 6th, right? Is that the date that we're all got?
Coming Monday.
Yeah, can't wait. I don't think Tua plays if he even goes back to college next season. I don't see a way he's going to be ready to play next year. Certainly not at the beginning of the season. If he plays at all, it wouldn't be until the second half and probably late in the second half of the season he'd be ready to play.
Well, let's wait and see what the doctors say about his recovery.
At number 6, as James said, the team that we should have seen all along, our biggest disappointment, the Los Angeles Chargers. We had them at 7th in week 1 in our power rankings. They finish up at 24. I mean, talk about a team that's looking for a quarterback. There you go. There's one.
They will definitely be looking for one. That's probably the biggest threat to the Dolphins as far as jumping ahead of them to get a quarterback.
But all the Miami fans want Tua, don't they? That's the thing. I saw a picture of Ron. I saw a picture of Ron yesterday. He was at the game with Alabama, and Tua was there. And I'm not sure if he had a canoe in his pocket or if he was just happy to see Tua.
Oh boy, that's wrong. It's so wrong. I'm putting it in the T's. All right.
Of course you are.
Carolina Panthers are picking 7th. They are in the search for a new head coach. And let's see here. Guys that the Panthers will be talking to. Well, Eric Bieniemy is on their list. And Mike McCarthy is on their list. Josh McDaniels is on their list. Those are the only confirmed members on their list. So, I've already said I think Mike McCarthy is destined to be the Cleveland Browns head coach. So we'll take him out of it. That means it's either Bieniemy or McDaniels. And James, this could go down in our podcast that we're going to record in the offseason about the lack of minority head coaching candidates. I think it's going to be McDaniels. I think McDaniels ends up in Carolina.
Again, I don't think McDaniels leaves New England. I think he waits it out.
I mean, I don't want to see him leave, but I do. I think the reset button is going to be something real. It's going to be a complete reset.
I understand the reset button, but I think the reset button begins with McDaniel taking over as head coach because there was no reason for him to back out of the Indy job 2 years ago, and yet he did. So that, and while teams may still have gotten over that and say, okay, well, we've let it stew long enough. Maybe we'll consider offering him another job. I don't think he wants to leave. Even though his name is coming up, there's something going on in New England where they have that set up for him to take over for Belichick. So as much as his name will come up, I don't think he leaves. I think he's going to stay. As far as Carolina, though, whoever's hired as the head coach, they have a big question at quarterback because neither Allen or Greer proved to be the guy that they would lean on in the future should they part ways with Cam Newton. And we still have to wait on Cam Newton's health in the offseason to see if they even decide to bring him back. So they have a problem at quarterback as well. This may look like a good job on the outset as far as like, yeah, let me take this. I mean, because you do have a winnable division. There's no dominant team that's going to, constantly win year in and year out. I mean, the most difficult team to deal with is probably the Saints. But you have talent on both sides of the ball. You have McCaffrey. The enemy being the former running back can definitely get this guy in space and make him quite possibly the ultimate weapon in the league. But you need competent quarterback play to make that happen. And with the three previous names I mentioned, whether they keep any of them at all going into next year, that would be a big deal as far as the new coach being hired.
So do you think, James, that Carolina will be the team who will be sleeping with the enemy? It's a very small group of candidates you've got there, Jay. We're kind of running out of names, aren't we? It's really interesting that there's so few guys kind of on that coaching merry-go-round.
Well, especially for Carolina. Like I said, there's only 3 names that Carolina's even interested in.
Yeah,
whereas the Cleveland Browns list is ridiculously long.
I'm kind of with James, though, I'm sort of with James in the sense that we're always kind of led to believe that McDaniels has done some sort of deal with Belichick to get that job, or with Kraft, whatever. I'm kind of with James. I don't think McDaniels will go. It's also, if you look at the teams who are available, okay, Cleveland have got a quarterback. We think have a quarterback. Carolina, we're not sure. I mean, Rob seemed to think that Newton's coming back, and if he does come back healthy, maybe that's somebody to work with. But surely somebody McDaniels is going to look around and say, I'm not going to a team unless they've got a young, up-and-coming quarterback that I can win with.
Well, they're picking at number 7. There's an opportunity.
To get who?
Yeah, I mean, we've already mentioned the teams ahead of them. So so Cincinnati's taking Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow's off the list.
Yeah.
Miami, you guys are all in on Tua. So while I might disagree, let's just take Tua off the list. So now you're looking at Herbert.
Herbert or Jordan Love. Good. Oof, that's I would like to be nailing my mask to either of those two guys.
Is Fromm declaring?
Oh, yeah, but he's going to be
I think Fromm's a senior, too.
Yeah,
well, then, I mean, there's another option. A guy who definitely had a down year, but before this year was being talked about as a number 1 draft choice.
Not for me, Clive.
No, I'm saying there is still an opportunity to take a quarterback.
Sure,
Carolina at number 7, and
Herbert's the next one off the train for sure.
So there you go.
Yeah.
Isn't the Texas quarterback coming out as well, or has he declared?
What about Jalen Hurts?
Oh yeah, okay.
Hurts is also coming out.
Yeah, off his stellar playoff performance last week.
Again, it's one game, Neil.
No. I'll buy you dinner when he becomes a successful NFL quarterback, G.
Okay.
Wow.
Well,
that hurts, Neil.
Well, let's face it. The next team at number 8 is Arizona, and we were saying the same things about Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray and Cliff Kingsbury do enough to prove that they are going to be a success in this league.
I still think at some point Murray will just get beaten down. He was sacked a lot this year and eventually got put out with injury, didn't he? But no, not long term, not for me. Kingsbury
6-9-1 was the record this season, correct?
Something like that, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I can see them repeating and winning 6, maybe 7 games again next year. As far as the 9 losses, giving teams fits because they won't be an easy out. There's talent on this offense that they're building around. I think my biggest question for Arizona, getting another wide receiver, because eventually Larry Fitzgerald is going to call it quits, and right now all you have is Christian Kirk as the most reliable receiver after Fitzgerald. So I think them either getting a receiver with their first pick or a running back, because we don't know what they're going to do with that running back situation. They acquired Kenyon Drake later in the season after Miami, jettisoned him. We don't know what's going on with David Johnson as far as his health.
He's gone.
And outside of those two,